Let's pray. God, you're a God of life, abundant life, who longs for the best for us, who gives your life, your flesh, so that we can live and we can enjoy life and we can celebrate it so that everybody can celebrate it too. May all that we do help everyone in this world celebrate your life and this wonderful, beautiful life you've blessed us with. Amen. It's been almost 2 months since Stefan, Holly, and Tyler led a group of us up to Grand Lake to help with Mennonite disaster service as they cleaned up the East troublesome fire. But I think about the work that we did that day often, especially with all the fires raging in California, which is affecting our air here every day. I'm so thankful for the work that we did. And I hope that we can do more projects like this in the months and years to come. It felt right restoring the land, hauling slash, bringing up logs to the chipper, planting grass to help the community as it continues to heal. For those who haven't been up near Grand Lake, the only way I know how to describe it is post-apocalyptic. There were parts where everything was black, where everywhere you looked, you just saw devastation, death and death and more death. So much life lost, so many habitats ruined. And the saddest reality is that this was just one of 3 mega fires which devastated our little state last year. And we know with global warming that there's going to be many more of these fires in years to come. And while I was working that day, hauling log after log, watching the kids toss seeds everywhere, similar to the person in the parable of the sower, my mind kept thinking of all the firefighters that risked their lives to contain that fire, that saved homes, that saved lives and habitats for animals, that prevent it from being even worse than it was. Firefighters say that one fire, that it sounded like a jet engine, that the winds were gusting north of 150 miles per hour as they were fighting it, and that there were walls of flame everywhere. And as I was researching these firefighters that are on the front lines of our wildfires, I came across some information that I never knew before. Maybe you all already know this. Maybe it's common knowledge for those that grow up in the West. But in almost every state out west, inmates are employed to be the bulk of the frontline firefighters in all major wildfires. Each state has multiple prison camps where they train nonviolent offenders to be the frontline firefighters, always on call whenever they might be needed the most. I know I'm naive. I get that. But I was in shock that many states use prisoners during wildfires, asking them to risk their lives for a few measly dollars a day. I quickly learned that Jamie Lowe was coming out with a book named Breathing Fire, which tells the stories of quite a few female inmate firefighters who repeatedly are on the front lines in California, where wildfires go all year long. I ordered the book. It came last week, and I think I finished it in less than 36 hours. It was riveting. It was heartbreaking. It tells a story full of risk and loss, injustice and terror about these incarcerated women who live and sometimes die fighting wildland fires. Now, I know California's inmate firefighting force is much more massive than what we have here in Colorado. In California, almost half of the firefighters that are devoted to these wildfires are prisoners. They have almost 4,000 of them that serve in this role each year. And they do this work for $2.90 a day. These men and women, they're the front lines. They get tasked to do the most difficult jobs at each and every large fire. They're the ones that cut and hold the lines, the ones that make a path through the flames so that others can get through. And they often work for 24 hours straight without getting a chance to sleep. And they do this for up to 2 full weeks at a time. And in a given year, about 1/4 of these prisoners will be seriously hurt, and some years 1 or 2 will die. And don't get me wrong, there are some aspects of this program which the women in the book seem to love. They loved being outside, not being constrained by the walls all day long. They loved getting fed pretty well, because staying in shape, working outside all day, fighting fires, it requires one to eat a lot. In breathing fire, each woman that low profiled seemed to love the work that they were doing as firefighters, the thrill, the enhanced freedom and privileges, feeling like they were making a contribution to society. But each one of these women, they also knew that they were being exploited heavily. They knew it wasn't just. They knew it was dangerous and abusive, but it was better than living in the death of being inside a prison, they said. In fact, it is so exploitative that the state of California saves over $100 million a year by using inmates for this labor. And with global warming, it's safe to say that these programs are only going to expand in years to come. Our society, it cannot live, it cannot function without prisons and the free labor that prisoners provide. It's what makes our lives possible. Our Vice President, Kamala Harris, said as much in 2014 when she was serving as California's Attorney General. At that time, like most times, prisons were overcrowded. People were calling for the state to release nonviolent offenders. But to these cries, Harris said no. Doing so, she claimed, and I quote, would severely impact fire camp participation, a dangerous outcome while California is in the midst of a dangerous fire season and severe drought, which when is it not? We need prisoners. We need them to keep doing difficult jobs like fighting wildfires for basically free, especially if we're not going to alter the way that we live our lives and the way that we treat our world. And you know what the worst part of all of this is? Up until this year, the imprisoned men and women that were trained to be firefighters, those that successfully served for multiple years in this capacity, those that risked their well-being by putting their bodies between us and the flames, they couldn't become firefighters when they were released from prison. The least one could do, right, is provide a pathway to employment as a wildfire firefighter upon being released, especially since many of the women in those books would have loved to do just that. It was thrilling, rewarding work, which filled them with purpose. All they wanted was just pay. In Colorado, a few months ago, Governor Polis signed a bill making it easier for prison firefighter inmates who worked on the fire crews to get jobs in the industry. But I'm really skeptical it's going to make a difference. I hope I'm wrong. Each year, though, there isn't a shortage of applicants for the few paid positions. And are the department's really going to hire people with felonies if they have a choice? And then just a week later, our governor signed a different bill which quadrupled the size of the state wildland inmate firefighting team. Bigger fires means we need more firefighters, but instead of expanding full paying jobs specifically for those that have been released from prison, we expand the inmate program by 4-fold. If we really cared about providing employment for those that risk their lives for us in prison, if we really cared about restoring humanity to all people, we wouldn't do that. The whole wildfire prison program, it just reminds me that prison is a form of death. It's a demonic space that seeks to make people numb to life, to the aliveness of our world and to the aliveness of our very own bodies. It's a space that seeks to erase you of yourself. And it does this by treating men and women as less than human, as a number, not a name. It does this by attempting to take prisoners' lives and making it as meaningless as possible. And it's so bad that people will do anything to get away from the walls, from the archaic tomb of concrete and iron, even if it means fighting fires for $2.90 a day. That's demonic. And even after people are released, our society teaches us to dehumanize these men and women by not giving them a fair chance to experience wholeness and restoration, which they all deserve. When I think of Jesus, I think of someone who was committed to the work of liberation. God sent me to proclaim release for prisoners, to set the oppressed free, Jesus proclaims in his manifesto from Luke 2. When I think of Jesus, I think of someone who always believed in the possibilities of restoration, someone who treated everyone with dignity and honor, someone who deeply believed in the world of forgiveness, that forgiveness must always be the virtue which sustains all of our relationships, our friendships, our humanness. Someone who always combated the world's systems of death because he was committed to life, to abundant life, to enabling all people to experience the beauty, the majesty, the hope, and love for which we all were created. These are the themes that run through the entire chapter of John 6, which the lectionary has had us parked in now for almost a month. John 6 opens with Jesus feeding the masses. The people there are hungry. It's safe to say that most people there couldn't afford to purchase their next meal. Likely, they had to sacrifice a lot to come to the shoreline to see Jesus that day. They chose to see Jesus instead of trying to find work as a day laborer. So what does Jesus do? Jesus hears the growling in their stomachs and he sends bread. Jesus makes sure that every person there, old and young, man, woman, and child, has enough to eat. Jesus is committed to their lives, to their well-being, even though he barely knows any of these people. And as we witness this commitment to life throughout the rest of the chapter as it continues. Last week, Jesus proclaimed, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away." Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away. Everyone deserves to experience abundant life, and I will never, ever exclude anyone from receiving it, Jesus says. And then this week, Jesus goes on to proclaim, "I will even offer my flesh. I will even give away my body so that others have a chance to live." 7 times in these short 8 verses, Jesus mentions the word life today. That's because Jesus' life was defined by providing life for everyone, even those who many believe didn't deserve it. I don't think it's a coincidence that at the end of Jesus' life, Jesus does just this. For as Jesus draws near the cross, Jesus' life was substituted. It was given for the freedom of one prisoner, Barabbas. Jesus sets one dangerous prisoner free because he believes deeply that all should have a chance to live, that all should have a chance to be open to a new world of possibilities, that all should have life because of him. So Barabbas goes free. As Christians, we are a people committed to resurrection. And that means that we are a people that are always committed to life. The Easter story is a story of a tomb, an empty tomb, right? A tomb cracked open with resurrection, freedom from death, life restored, relationships returned. And this means that resurrection is a confrontation with tombs in this world. Resurrection defies the violence, the exclusion, the exploitation that this world loves so much. Resurrection is God's protest against the powers of death. It means that we, as Christians, that we are called to witness to a love beyond the power of tombs. It means that we are always called to celebrate life, to restore life, and to protest against all of death-dealing forms of violence in this world, like prisons, and so much more. And that's why I love Second Chance. That's why I love this chance to partner with them in any way that we ever can, like this backpack drive. It is a small and yet it's a powerful way for us to revolt against the tomb of prison. It is a way of saying to the men and the women that receive them that you are welcome, that you are God's beloved children, that we see you, that we appreciate you, that we value you, and that we are praying for you, that we celebrate your release, and that even though our society isn't doing much to help you, we believe in the power of forgiveness, restoration, and life anew, and we believe in you. And while I know you at Second Chance, you don't narrate y'all's mission this way, I see you as a ministry of resurrection. For y'all are proclaiming that another world is possible, a world beyond prisons, a world of love, where life is always celebrated, cherished, and where people are giving opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to survive. And that's called grace to us. That people are not ever defined by the best or the worst moments of their lives. They're just embraced and honored and loved no matter what, because they're human and loved by God. So thank you. Thank you for showing me again and again what resurrection looks like, for pointing us beyond the tombs that hold us captive. Y'all protest against the powers of death. Y'all defy the violence of this world. And you all point us to a love that unclenches the grasp of death and desires abundant life for all. And for that, we say thank you.